Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO and founder of Inside Sales, Mr. Dave Elkington.
All right, so, I'll wait. Our next guest is an amazing person, comes from Microsoft, which those don't always historically go together. Jeff Sandquist runs global, there's some laughter, he runs global developer relations and startup relations. He was a long timer at Microsoft, left, went to Twitter for a couple of years, and was kind of done with Microsoft during, he kind of went through their dark days, came back under Satya. So let's give him a hand, bring him out.
Hey man, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So topic today, and I don't know if the audience realizes this, Microsoft, since Satya came back, do you guys know the increase in market cap in those 4.5 years? The stock price was about $21 when he joined, kind of moved in as CEO. Today it's over $100. So in 4.5 years, almost a 500% growth in value. That's kind of staggering. Microsoft, on any given day, is the most valuable company in the world. And if we're just being honest here, 5-10 years ago, nobody would have believed it, right? No one would have seen the technology or the products or any of this as really leading and bleeding edge. So what's going on?
I think first and foremost, the company I left is not the company I returned to, thank goodness. But it's an amazing time in the industry. The shift to the cloud is the single largest move in our industry that's happened ever. And at Microsoft, what changed and the company came back to is we're listening to learn from our customers. Before we build things, before we talk about things, we go out and talk to people, find out what do they need, and what are we going to build.
So the thing I want to dig into today in our time is there's 4 or 5 lessons that I think everybody in this room can learn from Microsoft, which is, again, a crazy thing, but there are about 4 or 5 things that every startup, every growing company, every large company can learn that Satya instilled in the organization, right?
Yeah.
All right, so if you were to say, the first thing that's just fundamentally different about Microsoft, what is it?
Culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have the best plan in the world, but unless you work on culture first, forget about it. At Microsoft, right, that real change where you look back in time, did the best ideas happen with Redmond? Our campus is 5 square miles. We'd often say surrounded by reality. What do you think how Windows 8 worked out for us? How about Vista? That happened when we lived within our 4 walls and never got out. So number 1, get out, listen to learn, and hustle. We're in second place. There's a big competitor called Amazon, and we're out there on the street every day learning about what do we need to build and what do you need to build for you. You look, though, at our tech stack. Azure, that's what I work on, is not the .NET Windows cloud. In fact, 60% of every new virtual machine every day is Linux. It's open source.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, GitHub, we acquired that company. Azure runs Node, Java, Kubernetes, and that's not your grandfather's Microsoft. And we're really out there trying to do some good in the world and to build some great tech. So what tech stack are you on?
I was going to say, it's kind of interesting. So we're on MySQL on the back end. We were on AWS. We migrated on to Azure. We use Go or Node or Scala, depending on which application. We use things like React and Material UI on the front end. And it totally supports it, right?
And a couple of nerds up here, we'll talk about tech stacks and frameworks all day. That's interesting. Azure is really the cloud for all, meaning Java runs and we treat it just the same as .NET and really emphasize on those different workloads. But it's around the business and growth. Why would you partner with us? Inside Sales has been a great partner with us.
So before we even get into that, I do want to answer that, but you're talking about culture. So Microsoft has made a pretty significant investment inside sales, so over $50 million. And the way that went down is Satya came to Utah, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, if you guys remember, and they'd already made a small investment in us. He reached out to me and said, I'm coming to Utah, I'd love to connect. I'm like, okay. I show my wife the email, I'm like, do you think this is like a phishing scam or is this real? And it was Satya, so I come sit down with him and he says exactly what you said. what are you guys doing? Like, what are you doing to win? What are the challenges you're running into? And this is, again, the CEO of Microsoft asking my advice. So we shared the, what our vision was, that we're using machine learning to help companies sell better, to understand these kind of patterns. And he got super excited and said, boy, I'd like to be more involved. And he himself personally said, look, I'm going to sponsor this partnership, and has. Yeah. So like, this is a really different culture.
It's very hands-on, and whether you're a startup or a large company ours, you have to go deep. Whether you're the CEO or my boss's boss, Scott Guthrie, everybody has to be hands-on as we're working to get product fit, market fit, and learn those things. And Satya goes deep. Scott goes deep. We all go deep. In fact, I have had conversations with Satya about documentation, a Hacker News thread where somebody down in a comment is saying something about a service that I deliver. We all have to go work together.
So, so that brings up another good point. So one of your lessons is focus on culture, learn, be a learning culture. I mean, if Satya's asking me advice, which was probably a mistake, you can learn. Yeah. You can learn from anybody. The second thing that also shocked me, and you told me a story about this, and you're actually alluding to this. Satya is getting his hands dirty, reviewing documentation code. You told me a story of Scott Guthrie, so let me give you some context. Scott Guthrie runs all of enterprise product. He runs Office, he runs Azure, he runs machine learning. So he has, I think, he has a $10 billion asset in where he 10 billion, where he owns all of the infrastructure worldwide. So this is Scott Guthrie, reports to Satya. Now tell me the story.
So Scott, leads all of cloud and AI, large team, engineer, grew up in our company as an engineer and is phenomenal. Another fellow works from Jason Zander, probably has about 10,000 engineers. These folks are building a worldwide computing, the world's computer, right? Billions of dollars of CapEx every quarter. Scott personally debugging customers' issues, code debugging one night with a high-profile customer issue. Very junior engineer on the phone, and he's stepping through the code with them. Jason Zander, he's an engineer's engineer, and I know he's personally debugging SAP deployments.
Well, with Zander. So Zander runs Azure worldwide. He competes with Amazon. That's this guy. We were having some troubles with our deployment. He personally reached out to me and said, hey, what is it? What do you guys need, Dave? And he fixed it. That's it's a different Microsoft, right?
It's our culture. Fix it. You got to fix it. See a problem. No one else is going to fix it besides you, and you got to own it. I mean, we get out there, and I travel a lot. I'm in engineering. I have engineering teams. I've been on the road the last 3 weeks and literally around the world. Who do I run into when I'm in there? I'm not traveling with Scott Guthrie, and he's meeting with a small startup in Tel Aviv.
So that's another lesson learned. Everybody in your company, get your hands dirty. The CEO, get your hands dirty. It doesn't matter who you are, everybody. Now, when Satya's on the road, when you're on the road, when Guthrie's on the road, all of the execs at Microsoft, what is it? They're not just debugging. What else are they doing? I love this.
We're learning. We're listening to learn, and that's in that culture. Satya will say it. You need to be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And when you want to learn, the first place we get is with our customers. And we're out there hustling honestly to try and sell. Hey, do you want to use this?
So I got to tell a story. So again, I'm sitting across from Satya a year and a half ago, and we're talking about the strategy. He said, look, let's expand our investment in inside sales. Let's talk about a go-to-market partnership. Then he says, hey, what do you guys use? And he starts closing me. And I'm like, wait, easy, I'm trying to close you. And he's like, no, what do you use for this? And what do you use for this? So think about this. This is the CEO of Microsoft is trying to hard close me on using Azure. If that guy is closing, everybody in your company should be closing. Everybody should be involved in pitching customers, helping customers, fixing things. It shocked me.
Well, I'd say, if you're a great product manager and you're really, truly a CEO of product, what are you doing every day? You're trying to figure out about how do you drive growth for your product. Unless you're growing, nobody's using your stuff. What are you building? And so you're getting out there, and we are all hands-on trying to get more business for us, right? And that's the shift in the cloud. Many companies are becoming developer companies. Everybody is a developer in these companies. And so you're coaching, you're bringing the CMO to here's how modern solutions would be, here's how we look at things. But again, how do you drive growth? So our product managers, our CEO, my leaders, myself, We're always out there, how do we get more business? And we're hungry for it. Like, let's be clear, we're not in first place, right? We are, many of us at Microsoft are like, wow, we're really in this great space where we have people and we're helping customers. But the only way we're going to get to improve is that if we actually get growth and we listen.
Well, the other thing that's interesting on that listening front, when I pitched Satya, I said, we build a machine learning tool that is using different data sources. Man, I would love to get access to O365 data and LinkedIn data and Skype or Teams data and the ML and machine learning data. And he's like, hey, what about the commerce data? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's use the commerce data. So our partnership gets us access to all of that. In fact, you guys have some partnerships with other companies here in Utah, right?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, we've partnered with well over 1,000 different companies across Utah. And it's been small startups. There's been Blue Panda. There has been yourselves as Inside Sales, SAP, Adobe. Those two companies, we have the Open Data Initiative that we work with. All of these folks making that transition to the cloud. And I'll say, I grew up in a very small town north of North Dakota. Beauty of the cloud was, back then, 20 years ago, I had to move to the West Coast to go do something in tech. Now you can be anywhere. You can be in Saskatchewan, Canada, where I grew up, or Hurricane, Utah, and you can build the next great thing without moving.
A lot of Hurricanians in the audience, I bet.
Maybe not.
There they are.
There we are. But again, I love this area. We have great partnerships. Exec sponsor for Pluralsight, phenomenal company work locally with. But I'd say one thing I want to make a point of that people don't realize. Like our partner programs that we do, our sales force gets compensated to sell your solutions for us, right? If you're doing a startup today and you want access to a 30,000 person sales force and you want us to sell on behalf, we have a very basic partnering relationship. We'll partner with you on go-to-market. We'll actually populate leads into our database, our CRM system for opportunities. We'll populate yours, whether you're Dynamics or Salesforce, we'll put opportunities in yours, and our sales folks can retire quota. They can do that by selling your solutions. It's not less of a quota, it's not less, they get paid the same.
So this is, by the way, the real deal. So our sales reps partner, do a one-on-one territory mapping with Microsoft reps, and they're bringing us into opportunities. So I mean, it is now. It's work, right? I mean, you can't be like, hey, here's my product, go. There's a lot of work, but it is real. They are.
And it's a transformation. Our sales folks years ago used to get paid by license. They'd show up to the procurement manager that they've been working with for years, and they'd probably get a new renewal. And it was famous that people didn't deploy Office, they didn't deploy Windows, they'd buy the licenses to get other things. Our sales folks only get paid by consumption now. They only get paid when people use things. And they are commissioned, they're incented to sell partner solutions.
To sell your stuff. So I actually want to bring up, you asked me a question before. If you're a startup, what business stack do you guys use typically? You're going to probably use Salesforce.com, probably use Google Apps, probably use Slack, that kind of stuff. You'll be surprised that Microsoft now provides us an entire business stack, and it's cheaper and more effective, generally, I think, than what you can get by mishmashing that stuff up. So think about it. You want LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can get Dynamics, you can get the entire O365 suite. I know it sounds like a pitch, and look, they did put some money in, so I probably am slanted, so kind of believe me. But my nephew just started a company that I funded called Chat Funnels, and he chose, I didn't push, he chose Outlook and the O365 suite. I mean, he chose, it's almost like there's a new startup. In fact, Tyler, who runs all of North America sales, is actually has a startup package that's cheaper than the other stuff. So there's a different thing going on at Microsoft.
We want to go help you run the back end for your business. We want to offer things for overall running your business. And honestly, pick and choose. We're not monolithic. No application is an island. Nobody's saying, hey, re-platform these things together. We're saying partner, look at these things, and we want to add value. And I'd say it again, we're hungry for your business. We're not sitting here in first place saying, hey, we have everything figured out. We want to tailor to. And it's as simple as this. You're probably sitting there going, okay, wait, they've sponsored the show. I see their logo up here. My team and I are here to help. That's what we come into. Every day we get up to help startups and developers. Come by our booth, talk to Dave, talk to his team, ask them what worked for them, and see how we can partner together.
We'll be real. Like, there's been bumps and bruises for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing I'll say, because I think we're about out of time, he's begging for your business. Like, how is this the 5 years ago Steve Ballmer, Microsoft? It's so different. So the lesson for you, don't get arrogant. I think I mentioned yesterday, the minute you get arrogant and think you've got it figured out, you're going to get beat. Like, inside sales, we got arrogant, we slowed down, we got humble, we sped up. Microsoft got arrogant, they slowed down, they got humble, they sped up. So, like, final lesson, be humble, learn from everybody. Any last?
So I would just say thank you. And we talked about market cap, growth, stock price. We just talked about it more here now than we have in any leadership team meetings that we've been around. We look at that as like the high expectations on us. The expectations, our industry does not reward tenure and length and history. We reward getting things done, taking care of customers, and really, innovation. You guys are startups, investors. Thank you for bringing us into our community. Thank you for bringing us into your local area. I love coming down here. Come by our booth or visit startups.microsoft.com, and we'd love to connect you. We want your business.
All right, give him a hand, guys.
All right, ladies and
Jeff
gentlemen,
Sang.
big round of applause. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Thanks for coming to Silicon Slopes. Ladies and